guys, we are back for another Dokkan battle video. Today we're going to go ahead and continue the red zone challenge that we've been doing with a lot of the 200% lead teams, right? Again, remember that the 200% teams are essentially designed around clashing with red zone, right? Red zone is sort of made for 200% teams, and 200% teams are sort of made for red zone, right? Like, they go hand in hand. So, I've enjoyed doing the challenge, right? Where we'll take these 200% teams, we'll stick to characters from the leader skill, and then we'll go try and sweep the various red zones. Today we're using the Final Form Cooler team to sweep this red zone. And now, I will say this. I'm leaning towards calling this the best team in the game. Final Form Cooler's team. It's either between this or Vegeta and Trunks' team, I would say. It's just both Cooler's team and this team. You just have so many ridiculous options, right? Like, I guess you probably would have to say the Vegeta and Trunks team, honestly, because it's just like you actually have basically like every Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, and Gohan, like until the end of time is on that category, which just kind of like changes things quite a bit. But this team is ridiculous, right? Cooler's team. Now, funny enough, the single hardest red zone stage out of all of them, for both the LR Metal Cooler team and the LR Final Form Cooler team, which are similar teams, of course, the hardest fight for them is in the Wicked Bloodline red zone. So we do want to keep that in mind. Now, this fight against Frieza is really not too bad. The final phase is very, very devastating, the tech full power Frieza. But the thing is that with Cooler's team, by that point, Cooler, you know, especially if we've stacked up his attack and shit like that a lot, like all these characters like Metal Cooler, Janemba, Golden Frieza, Final Form Cooler, because this is like the biggest, like the longest red zone fight, we will be completely built up on all of our characters by the time we reach full power Frieza, to the point where we could essentially nearly annihilate him in like one turn. Now, the weakness for this team, because Final Form Cooler is the best unit on the team, would be AGL bosses, which there is an AGL boss in here, but Final Form Cooler, right, to get embarrassed, he needs to be hit by one of these AGL bosses that's doing like way over 1 million damage, right, which the Final Form Frieza in this stage does not do over 1 million damage on a super attack. He does stack attack. The other thing about this Cooler team that's very good for this Frieza fight right here is a bit like a serious strategy is to eliminate that AGL, like using active skills and stuff like that to eliminate the AGL Final Form Frieza as fast as possible, so that he doesn't stack up extra power for full power Frieza. But with this team, right, if the Final Form Cooler, like if he gets a couple of crits, like AGL Final Form Frieza is going to be out of here super fast, right? So you guys know how it is. We're just sort of going through, building up all these characters. By the time we reach full power Frieza, we can annihilate him. We have several characters that could just outright live super attacks from him. Final Form Cooler himself, of course, you know, if he has a good turn with a lot of additional super attacks, he potentially could live a super attack from full power Frieza as well. Although, I mean, to survive full power Frieza's super, Final Form Cooler is probably going to need a good 4 12-key super attacks, unless it's a rotation next to the Easy 8 base Cooler, right? So keep that in mind. But here we go. You know, we destroy full power Frieza. This really wasn't a scary or difficult fight for this team. Not at all. Alright guys, now we're moving on to the final form cooler fight. This fight certainly can be tough, right, for this final form cooler team, because, again, the main, like, blockage that's going to happen for this final form cooler team would be AGL bosses, because final form cooler is the best unit on the team, damn near the best unit in the game. I think you either say Vegeta and Trunks or final form cooler. I don't like the idea of Carnival Goku as one, because to me he just feels like a worse version of Vegeta and Trunks, sort of, right? So it's like, it's either, number one is either cooler or Vegeta and Trunks, even though I would put cooler third, if that makes sense. I feel like it makes sense. But anyway, this cooler boss, this AGL cooler, is essentially the strongest turn 1 red zone boss there is, right? Now, here's the thing though, right, is that even though he is the strongest boss turn 1, final form cooler, right, make sure you go out of your way to get your 12 key super attack, that's super important. With a bunch of these good links active, we're next to Janembus, we have big bad bosses, we have Metamorphosis, we get a couple of 12 key super attacks, and we actually are able to survive a super attack from this cooler. Again, that's type disadvantage, hardest hitting turn 1 boss, and we ate it. That was honestly pretty impressive. And then, remember, we're running this, you know, team with metal cooler on it, so our healing is going to be pretty impressive too, right? Don't forget that we're healing not just from LR metal cooler, right, at the start of the turn for him, and then when he gets hit at the end of turn, but Metamorphosis, right, which base cooler, final form cooler, and LR Janemba have. So they're linking up together, and then we're getting tons of HP regen kicking in. Notice the damage base cooler took right there. It's like this fight, it's like if we can make it past this base cooler right here, who is, you know, hard countering, essentially, you could almost say our 3 best characters. Dude, you gotta love this, right? Like, cooler, do you wanna, oh, I don't know, maybe super a different slot? Back-to-back turns, he supered the ass end. Honestly, this, to me, is a pretty convincing argument for Final Form Cooler and how dominant he is, right? Like, that's back... We ate 2 super attacks from the strongest, like, turn 1 red zone boss who's type disadvantage for Final Form Cooler, and he ate it. That second one especially, you could see the huge difference Final Form Cooler gets when he's next to the Easy A base cooler, man. It is such a ridiculous difference. Only taking 200k from this base cooler right here. That's, dude, that's very impressive by Final Form Cooler, right? But essentially, us winning this is just making it through this first phase, since, you know, we have type disadvantage on all of our best characters. But as soon as we make it through here, we're probably not going to be in big danger against this cooler right here. We have plenty of characters who are going to do more than fine right here. I guess... this Final Form Cooler does do enough damage that if he supered our Final Form Cooler and we didn't get, you know, a couple of 12 key super attacks, that of course could be an issue for us. But just look how much healing we do, alright? Keep in mind that every team can do this ridiculous amount of healing, by the way. There's Janemba, the full dodge build, hello. Never forget that when I gave him full dodge, people said I was a stupid. I don't know how to play Dokkan, I don't know anything about Dokkan, I don't know what I'm doing. Yes I do. Janemba's here for defense, not offense, right? Sorry, I win. I won. Anyone criticizing the Janemba full dodge, you lost. It's all good, man. But all these characters have such high defense that just getting same type orbs every turn is giving us a huge amount of healing too, right? That's a huge thing with these modern day teams, is you get a lot of healing just from getting same type orbs. But there's Final Form Cooler. Honestly, a very impressive display, I would say, by the Final Form Coolers in this run, surviving these supers. Pretty impressive. now we are going on to the Mecha Frieza and King Cold fight. Honestly, this is pretty much just a free pass of a fight. Not really too much to talk about here. This fight has the same sort of makeup, which is, you know, these 3 Frieza soldiers at the start, which are pretty wholly unimpressive. Honestly, only the AGL Frieza soldier can even super attack, and his super attack damage is barely anything at all. There's not a 200% team in the game that's going to struggle, I think, with this fight at all. Right? This is actually a free pass of a fight. In the second phase, yeah, see, that's type disadvantage. Nice double digits. But in the second phase, of course, it can be, I mean, it can be tricky, I guess. I don't know what you want to say. Mecha Frieza and King Cold, they both hit pretty weakly for a final, like, fight, right? Final phase of one of these fights. You know, just, like, Final Form Cooler has double their attack, Metal Cooler has nearly double their attack, right? In terms of, like, the final phase of these fights. So, a very, very big letdown of a fight. But we have to make sure to attack King Cold as much as possible, because King Cold, of course, can seal us, right? And as I've done this fight more and more often, I have seen several instances where King Cold has actually double sealed. He sealed multiple characters on rotation, which is just a huge pain in the ass, right? Having multiple characters get locked down, but really this fight just pretty much finishes. The second King Cold is taken out, there's not too much Mecha Frieza can do by himself against this level of character, right? LR Janemba, Final Form Cooler, LR Metal Cooler, like, we're rocking all these beasts right here. There's not a ton that, like, King Cold and Mecha Frieza can do. The other thing, too, is that King Cold is a physical unit, and we're only running, like, the best STR units in the game here. So it's like, if King Cold doesn't seal Final Form Cooler right away, it's just going to be GG very, very fast for King Cold and Mecha Frieza. Again, a pretty weak and unimpressive fight. Alright guys, now we move on to the Metal Cooler fight. Now this is absolutely the most difficult fight for both Metal Cooler's team and Final Form Cooler's team I ran into. This fight actually gave me quite a bit of trouble, believe it or not. Now, some of it, of course, is where it's like, you know, earlier in the video, that, you know, base form Cooler, we ate a couple of his super attacks, you know, no problem. Here, it's a little bit more difficult. In my experience doing this fight, if Metal Cooler supers our Final Form Cooler, that's GG, right? Like, I don't think I've had Final Form Cooler survive Metal Cooler super attack. Now, one of the reasons, of course, is I even decide not to bring Easy A base Cooler. I mean, certainly we could get away with it if things went our way, right? And eventually he could stack up to where, you know, normal attacks wouldn't be an issue from Metal Cooler. But, you know, especially without running Easy A base Cooler or one of these other supports, it's going to be very difficult for Final Form Cooler to just eat Metal Cooler super attack. And Metal Cooler, you know, I mean, I guess, honestly, earlier in the video, again, that base Cooler supered us back-to-back turns in slot 3. Metal Cooler gave me huge issues because this boss, more so than seemingly any of them that I've fought recently, he just supers everywhere. Now, remember, it's different for, like, Red Zone Broly can super anywhere, but he supers twice per turn oftentimes, so it's a little bit different, right? But here, most of these runs, I just could not predict where Metal Cooler was going to drop that super attack, and it was causing me to have pretty big issues, right? Now, with some of the characters, we're using, like, Transforming Frieza in here. Transforming Frieza, you know, the 7th anniversary power creep hit him very hard. Transforming Frieza is just not really an impressive character anymore, honestly. He just is not doing anything special. It's not until he gets to Final Form that he'll even take double-digit damage from these Metal Cooler on normals with type advantage. So it's like Transforming Frieza. I decided to use him. One of the reasons is the strength he has with his links with Cooler and Janemba and Metal Cooler. I use the Tech Easy A base Cooler a little bit. Thank God for LR Golden Frieza, man. Holy. But, I use the Easy A Tech base Cooler a little bit. He can work well, right? He's not the issue. The problem is that he doesn't have big bad bosses. That's the thing about that Tech base Cooler that I cannot stand. He would be just so much better if he did. I still really like him. I think he can work well. But especially on this run, right? Like, once we, you know, introduce Janemba into the team as well, it's like another character that's got big bad bosses and Metamorphosis and, you know, Thirst for Conquest and, like, these types of links that are giving, you know, HP regen, attack, defense, all of these buffs. You know, these characters really need it, right? And, you know, if Final Form Cooler had, like, all of his links up and then he, like, quad supered, you know, maybe we could survive a super attack from Metal Cooler. It's definitely possible, but again, I don't think I've actually done it yet. Survive this guy's super attack with Final Form Cooler. And if you're curious, Metal Cooler hits about as hard as Red Zone Broly. Like, you could think about, this guy is essentially Red Zone Broly that, only super attacks once, but then heals every turn. The reason I have way more trouble with this fight compared to Red Zone Broly, though, is that, remember, Red Zone Broly, he's the 4th phase, right? You go STR, Tech, STR, then you get to the AGL phase. By then, the Final Form Coolers are fully built up, Easy STR Cooler is built up. You could just, like, nuke that Broly out of here fast. It's not as easy to get that done against Metal Cooler because we're up against Metal Cooler so much faster. I had runs where I was on Metal Cooler on turn 2, right? And it's like Final Form Cooler is not built to survive these hits from Metal Cooler on turn 2 before he's fully built up and stuff like that. So, you know, there was some issues I ran into when doing this, but, you know, you could see this guy's performance, right? Like, any given turn, his numbers can go crazy. With a lot of crits from him, we can demolish this Metal Cooler. Dude, my Cooler pisses me off. He has 25 crit. Bro, crit! Hello? You've got 25 crit, buddy. There you go. Goddamn. Alright guys, now we are moving on to Honest. This is a nasty ass fight. The fight against the Metal Cooler Core. I do think this is the second hardest red zone fight overall. This fight is brutal, but not for this not for this team. This fight is not brutal at all. Basically, what's going to happen is we're going to come in here and we are going to like beyond disintegrate this Metal Cooler Core, right? Because so the first 3 phases, right? Remember, we can't destroy this Metal Cooler army. We have to like survive for 3 turns against them. That is very good, right? Whereas the AGL Metal Cooler boss is very tough, because I talked about how sometimes I'd get to Metal Cooler on turn 2. That doesn't happen here, right? We can't kill this guy, right? You have to go through 3 turns, which is beautiful, because so now all these coolers right here, dude, if we got this exact rotation in like any other red zone fight, like the boss is dead before we complete the rotation, right? Like that's what's gonna happen. But here, we can get all of these attacks in. Remember, every 12-key super attack Final Form Cooler does, he's nerfing the Metal Cooler army, debuffing them. We're building up his passive. Base Cooler can get a super attack, right? See, double digits, boom, there we go, right? Like, because we're able to just sit here like infinitely in this first phase, it allows us to get all of our stacks up. And then the second phase, Metal Cooler Core, is essentially the hardest hitting enemy in the game besides Cell Max. Cell Max is 1, Metal Cooler Core is number 2. But it's just like we have, you know, the most powerful SCR units in the game, right? Like, yeah, if the Metal Cooler Core can seal us, right? He can. Every once in a while, he'll just seal you, you know, whatever. But that doesn't, if he doesn't seal Final Form Cooler, like, he's got no chance. Like, the only way the Metal Cooler Core can really kill us is if, like, every single turn he's sealing Final Form Cooler, and then, like, he has to, like, super Janemba. Well, it's like, I don't know. He has to, somehow the Metal Cooler Core has to deal a lot of damage to us, and then either kill Janemba or AGL Golden Frieza. I guess Easy A Base Cooler, early in the fight, before he gets a lot of stacks off, he could potentially take damage from a super attack from the Metal Cooler Core, but at this fight, we just have essentially a hard counter to this fight, right? Like, that's... Final Form Cooler is so dominant in this fight that it made people think that this fight is really not that bad, when it actually is a devastatingly hard fight. It's just Final Form Cooler goes absolutely wild in here, right? And we're getting good luck with Base Cooler super attacking a lot, so, like, his defense is going to start skyrocketing. And before you know it, these bosses stand no chance. This Metal Cooler Core, he gets turned inside out in seconds once Final Form Cooler starts doing this, and he's getting a ton of crits and shit like that. Like, yeah, dude, see you later to all of your health. So, there is the Metal Cooler Core. Again, not really a tough fight with the power that we have of Cooler and these characters. Let me know what you guys think of the Wicked Bloodline Red Zone and Final Form Cooler's team. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.